let's talk for a second about the conservative parties. We've talked about sort of the shortcomings of the Labor Party. First of all, most Americans hear Conservative Party and they think, okay, American conservative. What are the differences between European conservative parties, European right-wing parties, and the American Republican Party or American conservative ideology, do you think?
Well, it depends what you mean by Europe. So I'm British rather than European. Our Conservative Party, I think, is fairly analogous to your Republican Party in its good and its bad ways. But in Europe, especially in continental Europe, it's a different story. You have Christian Democrat parties that tend to be culturally of the right, but economically much more of the center or center-left. And then you have liberal parties which are economically to the right, but are culturally to the center or center-left. So we as British Conservatives struggled for a long time to find a neat fit in continental Europe. There were no obvious allies for us. We've now found some, from Scandinavia and from Eastern Europe in particular, but not really so much from the old core EU countries. And the Christian Democrat parties that are called the main, Angela Merkel's party or, the Dutch Christian Democrats or whatever, they are, they're pretty, as that great Californian Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, these are girly men conservatives. These are panty-waist conservatives, right? They are not, they're not conservatives as you and I would understand.
So when it comes to the UK Conservative Party, what does the party believe the role of government is? So it seems like the NHS, for example, is completely untouchable by both sides of the political aisle in Great Britain. Obviously, that is an issue of tremendous import in the United States when it comes to the role of government in healthcare, where the Republican Party used to, and I hope still will for the future will stand against nationalized healthcare, but increasingly both parties are moving in that direction.
Yeah, but you know the weirdest thing about that is that in both countries, defenders of, I don't think either of our countries has an especially good healthcare system, right? There are many, many better models out there than either the American or the British system. And yet in both countries, defenders of the status quo have done an incredibly good job of pretending that the other country is the only alternative, right? So any proposal to reform the NHS is, you want an American system. And similarly here, any move away from the old system is either Canada or Britain. Well, there are countries with way better health outcomes than either yours or ours, and way better value for money.
Switzerland, Singapore.
Yeah, right, loads. And in all these places, you are not denied healthcare because you're poor. It's just that but if you can afford it, you don't get treated as a supplicant. You're a consumer, and you tend to get much better value and much better treatment. And it works out, particularly in Singapore. They've got incredibly good outcomes compared to anybody else. Healthier population, and it's a much better place to be poor, right, in terms of health outcomes. At every level, you're better off in Singapore. But we've got the same spread. We have the same electoral system as you. Our right of centre party, like yours, is a coalition. It's got some great people and some bad people. And I'll tell you one thing that I think is going to be where we move in your direction. As we record this interview, we're 2 weeks away from knowing who the Tory leader is, but I'm going to go out on a limb, and I may look an idiot when this is broadcast, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Boris Johnson is likely to be elected and will be Prime Minister. I think we're going to see something very similar to the culture war prompted by Donald Trump. I don't mean to imply that Boris is like Donald Trump in character or personality. They are very, very different people. Boris is one of the cleverest people I've ever met. And I don't just mean in politics, I mean in life. He's a brilliant, brilliant man who is clever enough to understand that can intimidate people. So he clowns around a little bit and puts people at their ease, and it's kind of polite, right? Whereas I don't think that is true of Donald Trump. He is keen to tell everyone what a genius he is, but I've yet to see much independent evidence of it. Having said that, they do have this in common. They're both kind of outside their parties, and they both polarize opinion. And very quickly, the culture war ceases to be about them and becomes about whether you like or dislike the other side, right? And I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's been good for you, and I don't think it's going to be good for us. But it's the way politics is moving.